You have just listened to our interview with Emily Didonato. Let's review Emily's story. What stands out to me is her drive to succeed and how in the initial days of her career, this resulted in her energy being focused on her body and eating habits. She describes how she has struggled with body positivity, her own identity, and body image since then. Although her career has been indicative of success, such as having a Maybelline contract for a decade, she, like many other women, has gone through a process to accept her body and settle into life that holds her accountable to a healthier way of living. What stands out to me from a clinical perspective are three aspects of Emily's story: body image, eating disorders, and what constitutes a healthy diet. So let's talk about body image. What is body image? Body image is how you see your body in the mirror, how you feel about your body, what you think about your body, and what actions you take as a result of all of this. Or, according to the National Eating Disorders Collaboration, body image is, quote, the perception that a person has of their physical self and the thoughts and feelings that result from that perception, end quote. Emily asked me, why was she programmed to think about her body from the 6th grade? Well, body image development begins quite early. In fact, it starts as early as 4 to 6 years of age, and according to some experts, possibly earlier. So it's no surprise that Emily started to think about her body that early on. We heard in the interview that in the absence of the structure of her family's routine, unhealthy habits emerged as Emily started her modeling career and was living on her own. She describes herself as an emotional eater who binges but has never purged. So is this an eating disorder? When erratic eating habits progress to the point of overeating a disproportionate amount of food frequently or restricting to the point of abnormally low weight, this could be an eating disorder. The most common eating disorders are binge eating disorder, bulimia, and anorexia. The main differences are as follows. In binge eating disorder, which is the most common of the three, there is a loss of control around eating, resulting in frequent binging and feelings of guilt, shame, and embarrassment. People are generally overweight or obese because there aren't attempts to get rid of the food by vomiting or exercising. Bulimia, on the other hand, refers to a disorder with uncontrolled eating followed by attempts to get rid of food, such as through self-induced vomiting, laxative abuse, or excessive exercise. Anorexia, which is the least common of the three, refers to restriction of food intake leading to low body weight alongside an intense fear of gaining weight and a significant disturbance in body image. If you or a loved one is struggling with erratic eating habits, and this sounds like you, please seek help from a healthcare provider. And lastly, a note on diet. What Emily mentions about being preoccupied with only eating certain foods at certain times, such as cashews, apples, Coke Zero, of course, we're not endorsing this method. Now, I am not a nutritionist, and so I won't advise on diet, but I can tell you what a healthy diet looks like for me. And here are some general ground rules that I follow. I choose, for example, real foods as opposed to processed foods, organic or farm-fresh produce, foods loaded with essential vitamins and nutrients, the more colorful, the better, and lots of veggies, fatty foods in moderation, sugar and caffeine in moderation, and no caffeine after 12 noon, wild-caught fish, lean or organic meats, lots of seeds, and lots of nuts. So going back to Emily, bravo for her big reveal in 2019 on how she has struggled with her body image. I think this is an important story to hear. She, after all, has been the face of Maybelline for 10 years, and despite the visual imagery appearing flawless, she is human and struggles with the same things that many people face with regard to their bodies. Perhaps this is surprising to some of you. Many people struggle with body image and eating disorders, both within and outside of the modeling profession, and we want you to understand that you are not alone, that there is power in speaking up and in asking for and receiving help. Thanks for listening to Let's Get Clinical by Dr. Ali. Please check our show notes for references and more information on this episode. As always, if you are in crisis or you think you may have an emergency, call your doctor or 911 immediately. If you're having suicidal thoughts, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK. That's 1-800-273-TALK. 8255 to talk to a skilled, trained counselor at a crisis center in your area at any time. If you are located outside of the United States, call your local emergency line immediately. What you have heard on Model Mentality does not represent what would take place during a psychiatric assessment or an actual therapy session.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Model Mentality. If you like today's content, please subscribe to Model Mentality or wherever you get your podcasts. And while you're there, don't forget to rate and review us. Model Mentality is brought to you by Mind Studios.